Okay. I want to go over the action. I'm going to do this at the beginning of every meeting. I'm going to go over the action items from previous meetings minutes. I won't go through them in detail if they're going to be addressed later on in the meeting, but it makes sure that I won't miss this stuff. So the permitting checklist, we will actually, that was worked on by Jack and Cindy in the interim. We will get back to that later on. The permitting application, I was supposed to do something with, I did not. I sent it over to Jack this afternoon. You didn't look at it yet, did you?
I get distracted by the rains.
Okay, that's what I figured. We will be meeting with Jamie and John Huckins next Thursday. There's a training for Jamie, and actually for both Jamie and John, they get CEUs for it. It's a solar inspection training. We made it.
Yeah,
I
lots of people.
won't put you down as absent.
Is that a training they were planning to do anyway, or is it something that?
Jamie was planning to do it. He was invited. I think John, when he found out that I guess he's a member of all kinds of different committees, and his requirements for CEUs per year are just sort of unbelievable. So this will help him, and he's going to attend the result.
Was it a training that you had pointed out to them, or is this something?
It's part of the Sol Smart program.
It was, oh.
Yeah. So he's known about it for at least a month, probably longer. We let him know right away. I had asked that we prepare some documents for the select board for their meeting with Representative Barrington. Jack did that, and I did that as well. I don't know how useful they were.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's very useful, because we thought he was gonna go one direction and he went in entirely different directions.
Yeah. Still, there were some points that I think could have been brought up, but
Yeah.
I think only Joyce had them.
Right, well, that was a lot to hand to Joyce.
It was. In the past, so the last time they had a meeting with Senator Waters and Cassie Levesque, and she had distributed it to everyone. But she was still the only one that addressed it.
Right, but I still think we need to write a letter to Harrington that we send to the selectmen, because Harrington's whole point was large solar installations.
Bad.
Well, no, they were only bad 15 minutes a month.
Let's not do this right now.
Yeah, okay.
Let's get into this. It'll be the next thing we get to. I just want to finish up the action items. And an action item that I need to repeat for the minutes for this meeting is the building department follow-up on zoning recommendations. I tried to meet with Jamie this morning, but he's a hard guy to meet with. He's got a lot on his plate. I wasn't successful. I mentioned to John what we have to do. I do have a list for the recommendations we're going to make, and it's pretty limited. Our zoning ordinance is actually in very good shape, contrary to what I originally thought from the Sol Smart report. I had misinterpreted it. So I will have an action item to follow up on that. And hopefully I'll get to do that next Thursday. But I know that Jamie has a training in the morning and then our training at 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. So I'll try to catch him in between, but I don't know if I'll be successful. We'll see. So those were the action items from the last meeting. So now, Jack, I was hoping that you would do a select board meeting report since you were the one that was there. I did watch it yesterday.
Well, so Harrington was talking about 5 megawatt projects and how they're not fair, because if they fail on a high demand day, which they naturally would, because that high demand 15 minutes in New Hampshire is going to be a cloudy day, so solar won't produce as much, but they're not responsible for.
So you mean if they fail to produce what they
Yeah, if they fail to produce what they're supposed to produce. they're not paying a penalty for the energy that they didn't deliver like some power plants do. But if you think about all the power plants and all the solar power plants in New Hampshire, all the residential and commercial stuff, for starters, none of them are bid into the market and set a price anyway. So,
Which was one of the things that he was complaining.
yeah, but the real point is 20, 29 or 30 of those peaks are substantially reduced by all the solar that's being delivered. So he's trying to make a case for 1 day a month being a problem when the other 29 or 30 are highly beneficial. It's a silly argument.
Well, and he's also ignoring the fact that this is the nature of the beast. Everyone who is buying into this knows that. And the way to compensate for that would be to add storage. So there are mechanisms, in addition to which you can have contracts where certain deliveries are agreed upon. Now, the solar isn't going to do an hour delivery agreement because it's dark at night and they know that there's going to be cloudy days. They would do something like what the Plains does. Which is they do have a delivery agreement in the power purchase agreement. They must deliver a certain amount that is agreed upon. But the other thing that I really disliked about what he was saying is he was double counting. And there is no double counting. He was saying that it is twice what he was saying, that they basically, because if there's a day when they're not delivering the full amount that they're supposed to, effectively they're not delivering twice as much as the nameplate rating, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he didn't give enough detail to really rebut things easily.
No, but unfortunately, what we gave Joyce didn't fit what he did, so it didn't really help us any. But I do think it's perfectly reasonable to send a letter to him that the planning board gets to read that says, look, you're talking about 1 day a month, and we're talking about the other 29. The argument is specious.
Yeah. So just so you can see what we had sort of prepared Joyce for, what we had sent her information on, was what's frequently been complained about in the past is cost shifting. So we had sent a summary of how, the claims about cost shifting, generally the claims were that lower income ratepayers costs were being shifted to them. So what we did was we presented a report where that was debunked, and how it was debunked and where the cost shifting. There is a slight effect of cost shifting on certain groups, and those groups are commercial and large commercial, and it's a very small amount, and it can be treated with rate design. He didn't go there at all. So the other thing that we had prepared was SB 106 is a net metering legislation proposal that would have extended what is currently limited to municipal and government entities. So what we've signed up for at Poverty Plains, it would have extended that to commercial entities who would then have had a commitment to self-consume 20% of the power. And this could directly benefit ratepayers in that they could subscribe in the same way we have subscribed as a town. But they didn't go here at all. And I would have liked it if this would have been brought up, because the argument here is very directly, look, Barrington residents could be getting a discount on their power under this agreement. Why would you be voting against them? It's increased competition. There's no good argument against this, but they didn't go there. So sort of a wasted effort.
Well, just so you guys know, there are 40 of these third-party reports throughout the country that have all asked the same question, is there a cost shift? And every single one of them has said no. And the one we just paid for last year, the state says exactly the same thing. It says that net metering has a value.
I already had two in New Hampshire.
There was one about 4 or 5 years ago that they ignored too. This one says net metering has a value of anywhere from 10 to 23 cents over the next 10 years. 10 to 23 additional cents. So it's like, you know, a minor cost shift to some commercial entities in the face of consumers saving 10, 18 cents is.
But what Harrington is now saying is that that was under small net metering agreements, you know, household residential entities. So he's saying now they have to redo the study for large entities. Yeah, basically what in my opinion, what they're doing is they're saying, we're going to study this until we manage to get a result that we like.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least distract you long enough.
Making more money.
So,
And he's on the PUC?
no, he's our state rep.
But he's a
But I-
former piece.
I was gonna say, was
He's
he?
been around
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah, no, I'm sure he's a pretty knowledgeable guy, and,
But he has definite biases.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just think the PUC
Well,
lends itself to a certain bias.
yeah, no, I mean, I think his bias, he didn't say this, but, I mean, his bias, anything that is not promoting nuclear energy, he would rather not see. That's the direction he wants to go. I wish he'd be open about that. And, you know, to some extent, if he was open about doing that and about other proposals that make sense, such as solar, I wouldn't have a big argument, but he's not. Anyway, that was the meeting. There was a bunch of other things that happened at the meeting, so you know that we can do the library. Why don't you do it now?
The update from the select board meeting?
Yeah.
The select board voted to accept the $129,000 donation from the Barrington Library Foundation. And I think another $8,000 from the trustees to fully fund the solar project for the library, both rooftop and ground mounted, and monies were transferred and possibly
Contract was signed
contracts were
last time.
signed. Yeah.
Jack had a cameo.
Cameo.
It's true.
Yeah, Tracy asked about warranty. She wanted to know why they selected a contract with a 5-year warranty instead of a 20-year warranty. And my point on that was, I think I know 5 solar installers for the last 20 years that have still survived, and 20 times more that have gone out of business, and a 20-year warranty doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
And then they asked about inverter warranties because somebody had offered a 20-year warranty inverter, and inverter warranty, and I said, you can get 20-year warranties, you can buy them for the same price as the inverter. So you're paying twice as much money for the inverter, and 10 years from now, the inverters are likely to cost less anyway. So what's
And be more sophisticated algorithms they've
what's the point?
implemented.
So what's the timeline?
I think it's probably going to start in 2 weeks.
But do you expect it to be, like the roof stuff done by?
The opening
Oh, I
is
think
July
I think it'll all be done with the opening.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're going to be working on tanks at the same time.
And so they are planning on a celebration of some sort on July 10th, my birthday.
There are several.
Ribbon cutting
There's
is-
several events. The ribbon cutting is July 10th, I believe.
Yep.
And there's a family day, and then there's a major donors day.
They didn't mention, they haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, that's because one of the concerns is that there'll be too much traffic if everybody sort of comes at the same time. So they're trying to have like a family day and a like sort of town and volunteer type thing day, and that would be sort of the one we'd be most likely to attend.
Yeah, no, that.
And then there's a separate big
Good
donor
concern.
event in Barber.
Okay, very good. Other news, Community Power Coalition, and the Poverty Queens Group Net Metering. The school board did send me a letter and asked me to present on the 20th. So I will be doing that. I have the load numbers already from them, and they're big.
Unsurprisingly.
For comparison, I believe the town was, so this is in megawatt hours. Their average is about 1,400 per month. I believe the 10 municipal buildings are around 200.
262 before we did the solar on this building, 262,000 kilowatts
Okay.
a year before we did the
So
solar. on
this
building.
will, whereas, the municipal accounts were a fractional percentage of what Poverty Plains was gonna produce. This is about 14%, so this is significant.
Is there still room to get into poverty plans?
I'm assuming there is because I asked Jackson Kaspari if he would come to the meeting, and he agreed to it. If there was no subscriptions left, I assume he would have said, this is pointless.
Yeah.
But I do plan to ask him when he's here what the situation is with subscriptions. I don't know where they are. I know Mark Bollinger was on vacation this week, so they probably didn't do a lot in his absence. So Jackson is responsible for that as well. So that should be interesting. We'll see how that goes. Jim,
Yeah,
you signed out of Community Power.
on the instruction of Con.
I know. No, I had thought he was gonna do that before, when the rate change occurred, because he told me that he was. I was kind of surprised that he did it now when we're in the middle of the rate period and it's gonna change. We're gonna know fairly soon what the new rate period is. We may be juggling things again then.
Probably,
How
Hope so.
did it go? I mean, was it fairly easy to do?
I just got a confirmation back that they've accepted my stuff, but
But your time spent with them, did you do it by phone?
online,
Online?
Yeah.
So you just did it for each account?
yeah,
And it went fine.
so far,
Good.
I got an
Yeah,
acknowledgement back from them, so.
no, and like you had told me, actually, it may take a month or two before
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
actually switched over.
Easier to deal with,
Good for about 6 weeks.
Well,
easier to deal with than the original lease.
Assuming the rate goes down, yeah.
well, and assuming that the new rate is lower than the Eversource rate, and this is, they're still in a tough period. I showed you the cost projections at the last meeting. They are going to be negative. It's going to depend to some extent what Calpine, their consultant and credit extender, tells them they want them to do. So
Yeah.
Didn't Eversource announce that they're gonna go up on the delivery?
But that's
They
delivery.
want,
They
they want
want
to go to the distribution side with their debts.
Right, but that is, remember, that won't affect their energy.
Right.
That's still, there's still a case before the PUC about how all that's going to be handled.
Even though it's losses from their energy purchases, they move it somewhere else.
Yeah,
Just creative accounting.
They've got a number of places they're trying to move them to. They're trying to move them to stranded costs. They're trying to increase distribution rates. It's quite the effort. But
yeah,
we'll
I
see
want to
where
leave
it
it
goes.
alone. It's less than a penny. 0.77% kilowatt difference.
That's a lot to them.
Not to, not in your regular bill here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's per kilowatt.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we'll see where it ends up.
Yes, there've been people complaining that they were changed over to it, and they didn't want to be changed over to it, and how can the town do that? And, yeah.
Get over yourselves.
Anyway,
What was it?
Told you it was gonna work.
there's been a couple people call and complain to the town that how the town have any right to change them over to this community power from Eversource, and, the town voted for this, and nobody understood it, that called. They didn't understand any of it, I don't think.
Well, there couldn't have been very many because no one has opted out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to be the biggest jump in the opt-out that we've seen.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, that's,
No, nobody came to the talking sessions like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a defendant number two.
Yeah.
And they got letters about it.
yeah, I know,
It was the most popular warrant that was voted on.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Still,
they,
half the people are a third of that actually.
and today, and even to the end of this rate
You know,
season, they will have saved money, so I know that's a terrible thing.
people don't understand and they call about odd things. They
Yeah,
don't understand about.
Yeah, who's-
so who's been taking those calls?
Tiffany, I think, is the one taking the calls.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Connor always diffuses those kind of calls really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would diffuse them.
That's why he's.
I kind of crank them up. Okay. Moving on to the Salt Smart program, I will bring up the permitting checklist and let Jack and Cindy go over it with us. Go Jack and Cindy.
Go City.
All right, so Soul Smart has a goal of every town in the group having a sort of easy to understand checklist of what do you have to do to get solar installed in your town, like what are the requirements? And so it's just a way to make it easy for contractors to understand what it is they have to, or homeowners to, what they have to do. So they had a template, so we obviously used that because it made everything easier. And a lot of it was just sort of fill in the blank of, you know, here's our town name and address and all that other stuff. The code and design criteria, all the electrical code and international building code stuff is in there, and then wind speed, all the
Yeah.
engineering stuff.
That stuff's actually really, I didn't get to tell you, so that's really handy, the wind speed, the snow load and all that stuff, because racking companies all want to know what that is, and it's not, sometimes not easy to find, so having it right there is really.
Yeah, so, and then the required permits and what they are, and then,
Did the stuff you highlighted in yellow have any meaning?
no, it's something I have to figure out how to reformat. It has to do with
Oh,
their comments, and I haven't bothered because I just wanted Jamie to go over with it first to make sure I didn't screw anything up. And then, let's see here. We're trying to break it out for what you have to do if there's a residential installation versus a commercial versus, like the different types and, how they, since there's slightly different applications, you might need slightly different permits for them. Mostly it's just the electrical permit for solar, but you would need a building permit for a rooftop commercial and a zoning permit potentially for ground mount commercial.
You
So
know, we're sort of assuming that they're gonna adopt our solar only permit.
we're
Yeah.
sort of assuming that.
And
Yeah.
I did mention it to John today, he didn't bat an eye.
Jamie didn't see the line either, so.
Yeah.
I think they actually kind of want that. It's the sense I got too. Then if you don't mind scrolling down. Great. I mean, I don't think anybody really is that excited about all this stuff, but anyway, some of the spec sheets that are required, the IFC stuff, which is the fire stuff, the electrical wiring diagram. And then I think at the very end, there's like the business hours. Oh, the
Yeah.
contractor has to be a licensed, New Hampshire electrician, the permit fees, where to get all the information, who to submit the permit to, what the average time is, and who to call if you have questions. And all their info is in there, as well as the hours of operation for, and the phone and fax and all that stuff.
Is there actually an appendix?
There was, can you scroll down a little, or did it not? No. Okay, well, I'll fix that. But there's some pictures of the stickers that are required.
So this would be something like on their website or a handout, the kind of instruction manual to
I'm
go through the
hoping
permit
this will
process.
go on the building department website. If not, we'll put it on our website.
Both.
Yeah, we'll certainly have, at the very least, have a link to wherever it is. But what else were you asking?
Does this reference the zoning part of things as well? Like, there was some,
Talks about
a zoning
It
permit.
talks about zoning for commercial ground mounts.
That's like, because there was the warrant article that
Yeah.
restricted it on that. So I didn't know if there was any like zoning considerations to be referenced or pointed to.
Well, there's the the zoning ordinance has the solar zoning.
Right. So would we point to that at all in this?
We did not point to the zoning documents. We could,
Yeah, maybe we should link to that.
that's fine.
Put a link in there to that.
So that's maybe help me out here. There's a new zoning,
Be careful with these links because the zoning ordinance changes fairly regularly, and I'm assuming the link will change fairly regularly. And I don't want to get into something where we have to keep changing links.
stuff.
You could just reference the art of what zoning chapter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
And that was, that there's certain districts where you can't have ground
It's
mount.
just setbacks and height and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Restriction of size.
I wonder if it's small enough, it could be an appendix. Would that be appropriate? Or-
It's not that small.
It's not, okay. I thought it,
And that, like I said, it's likely to change. I would prefer, I don't like having multiple copies of the same document. It's
yeah.
always a risk that they get out of sync. And then,
Right.
you know, then you get blamed, they've used one and the real one is somewhere else. That's a mess.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great, good job. The solar permit we went over the last time hasn't changed since then. I am going to rely on Mr. Bingham to bring that up to date. I'll just flash it on that. This is basically what it looks like. It needs some additional information that Jack is recommending and any other comments that he's got. We're going to get rid of some things, as I recall. Something, you said this
Yeah, that's just a couple.
requires a fire, so that our fire department doesn't do a safety.
Approved by fire department.
So we will have this in shape and hopefully we will get a go, no-go from Jamie. They may want to reformat our stuff a bit, which would be fine. I copied that logo from something, stuck it on there. I'm sure they have better ways of doing check boxes and things like that. So if they want to take that on, or one of the admins, that would be fine. Okay. We did the library updates. Anything new on the rec center? No. We're not going to do the education today either. Did you by any chance see Diane St. Jean? Is she at all interested? I don't want to keep bugging her if she's not interested.
Yeah, I forgot to talk to them. I'm sorry. I mean, I talked to her about it the first time, but I forgot to follow up.
We weren't asking you to.
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh, God. I mean, yeah, I saw her read it at the library meeting and I didn't.
Well, mention it to her. I had sent her an invitation and I had sent her the minutes for the last meeting and she didn't come.
I do think the library foundation will probably be winding down. I mean, we have like money stuff we gotta keep track of for another 6 to 12 months, but
She's still busy with that.
right now, yes. But I think the account, I'm the treasurer, that'll take 6 to 12 months to unwind, but the marketing type stuff she does probably by December will be wound down. So it may be something to revisit at that time.
Okay, that's a ways off.
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we're gonna wanna put off everything having to do with the education stuff.
Oh, yeah, no,
So we should start thinking about that. I'm not gonna schedule a session, but give some thought to it. Rob, think about what kind of time you can devote to this. Go from there. Okay, Doug, I'm gonna leave this one to you.
Yeah, so I got this email about this Sunday idea, and I recalled that they used to do events at UNH back in the day. But this is a national thing. They're just trying to draw attention to, that we need to have more renewables. So Bill McKibben actually had his name on it, sending it out, and it's actually from a group called the Sanders Institute, which is Sarah Sanders, Bernie's spouse. Yeah, I believe is the founder of that. But it's a national effort. I don't know how many groups are involved, but it's clearly they're wanting to do stuff all over. So the idea is that we do an event, and they're aiming for the fall equinox, so September 21st, which I presume is a Saturday on the calendar, or something on the weekend. But anyway, the idea is that to do some local events that would draw attention to renewables. Okay. So what I was thinking just initially is that, we could do something at the town common. I could do tours of the new library, solar, the Caliph's solar, information tables, come up, we could do a sun run activity. I don't know, just stuff that would engage people. So what people think of that.
Would you be willing to try to organize some of this?
Well, yeah, but obviously as a committee, yeah.
Sure.
And, I would hope we get the town engaged, or select board or something, do a proclamation or something for Sunday.
Yeah, no, that all
It's a
sounds like.
sunny day.
Yeah, it's a nice day.
Yeah, well, I'm not
Obviously.
gonna be able
Never
to
know.
control
Yeah,
that.
you never know.
Yeah, in September's.
September is
usually
good.
Pretty bad, yeah.
September is good.
I haven't met the new librarian too, but from a lot of this, the educational part of this too, I still want to reach out, see if they would set up something, maybe like the home improvement section of books or something, to have something for energy. Right, they can focus on efficiencies and alternative energy, maybe, and again, some sort of dashboard or something to show the solar panel
She is
functioning.
fantastic, and I think would be quite responsive.
Oh, we already have a new librarian?
Yeah,
Oh.
She's awesome. She must be dealing with a lot as far as the move goes, and she showed up on a rainy Saturday to shovel mulch with me we're trying to, DIY those gardens, make them a little better before it opens. And, she was out with a wheelbarrow.
This is something that we could combine with the education activities to some extent.
Well, yeah.
I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily be like a solar homes tour, but we could, we had several people that wanted to show off their solar systems or heat pumps.
I would, I was thinking about inviting select board and zoning planning people, as well as anybody here who wants to see it, although I think you guys already know all this stuff, to check out the energy efficient ADU we're having built on our property. Because it has some cool energy efficiency stuff in it, and it's also speaks to some affordable housing issues. Barrington brought up some of this, how he didn't like it.
Yeah, he seemed quite dismissive of it.
Yeah, so, he seemed like he was sort of saying that workforce housing and accessory dwelling units and zoning changes that allowed people to have more dense housing for affordability were, his main thing was it violated local control, I think, was his main point that he kept saying.
Well, there's some legislation that's trying to avoid local control about.
1 acre lots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway, maybe that could be incorporated into this Sunday, my house also has some solar.
What is that thing?
It's not complete, but
It was delivered.
it comes as in sections, it's modular, so it comes in sections. I Legoed it together about a month ago, and you might ask if it's raining a little bit, but that's delayed the leach field a bit, but the leach field is a leach swamp right now.
Yeah.
But we're almost there, probably June 5th, move in.
Okay, so if we're gonna combine these things, that means we do want, like I said, give some thought to the education stuff. Let's plan on scheduling, how we're going to attack this for a discussion at the next meeting. And we can look at this some more too at that time. Did you want to go through any of, I know this is a fairly long page.
Yeah, but it's not a whole lot of stuff there yet. Obviously, it's just getting up and running. So, but if you're interested, you can sign up, get updates and stuff. But
Yeah, I assume you signed up.
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Did anything additional come out of it?
I mean, like today.
Oh.
I mean, I looked at it, it's like,
I'm sorry, you
yes.
did
No, they
just-
haven't
You
emailed
did
me
just
back
send this to
yet.
me,
Yeah.
okay.
But, you know, they have news stuff. There's a lot of good links on there.
Okay, good. We
Yeah.
will continue with
Is
this.
that their website?
Yeah, that's the site.
Yeah, it's pretty easy Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, did anyone have anything else that, needed to be discussed?
Actually, I did have one that relates to what you're talking about with Barrington. I kind of stumbled across it, but in the latest go around with the nuclear promotion bills, I used to call them, the Senate Energy Committee tacked on a whole bunch of net metering stuff, and seems pretty substantial. I'm not that up on net metering rules, but they want to increase the group net metering from 100 kilowatts to 500, and the community from 6 megawatts to 18. And I'm assuming it's probably all Senator Waters.
It's limited at 5 right now.
What?
The community is limited at 5 right now.
Yeah, so
We're talking about-
triple it, yeah. And this was, this was put into, it was amended to the nuclear bill. I think the idea is, if you want your nukes, you're gonna have to get renewable solar too. So I'm sure Senator Waters probably felt pleased about that, because,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
they
and
savaged
that's-
his other
That's a
efforts.
reasonable way to go about it.
So anyway, that, I believe it passed 4-1, I think, in the Senate Energy Committee, and it's going to the floor next week, so I just thought that was interesting. I can send you the details. if you-
How does this work, Doug? This happened after crossover? The whole thing was?
Yeah, this was in committee in the Senate, like yesterday. I mean,
So is this for next year, or
well,
does it still has to go to the House?
No, it already went through that. The deal is when they amend it, then they gotta go back to
This
the
was at
House.
crossover, they.
Yeah, and they do a
amended-
committee or
okay.
conference, and it's, you know, who knows if it'll stay, but I think the idea was that it's kind of a way to slip it in there, you know,
Sure,
under
yeah, no,
Barrington's nose.
What's in the nuclear?
What?
What's in the nuclear?
It's basically, well, there was a whole bunch of stuff that I'm sure they got as like boilerplate from some, you know, national outfit, but a lot of that got cut out, and so, but it sets up, it's enabling, and they can do power purchase agreements, long-term contracts. It defines nuclear, you know, as advanced nuclear being, you know, this, and this, you know, and so it kind of, you know, slips it in there. Obviously, they can't make it happen. But
Did they
they're gonna do
classify
everything
it
they can to
as a
encourage it.
renewable resource in this bill?
Well, they define it as clean energy.
Okay.
That's a separate bill, though. That's actually Harrington's bill.
no.
This is Harrington's.
Well, it is, in theory, like. it
Well,
doesn't
it's
emit
low carbon. Yeah.
I mean, you've got to use a lot of concrete to build it, but
Yeah, and they actually amended it twice in the House and then in the Senate to refer to low carbon sources or something, which, you know,
Well,
it's sort of appropriate. But then they say, you know, clean energy refers to nuclear energy and other renewables. Like, you're suggesting nuclear is renewable? You know, what? You know, who did
Yeah,
edit
the other,
this
the other
properly?
there is.
And I can't believe they all looked over it and nobody thought that was a problem. I mean, I sent in testimony to that effect.
I mean, the cost, the delays, and the fact that nobody wants it in their backyard, I think is gonna be the real.
Yeah,
The cost
exactly.
and the time, no,
Yeah,
the primary.
but
factors.
it's the, I was gonna mention another, well, the next, one of the notable items there. The Free Staters have this vision of, you know, these are the radical libertarians.
Yes.
They want to run the state on nukes and cryptocurrency. They're
Could
basically
possibly
going to
go
use
wrong.
the nukes to run the crypto mining operations.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so they came up with this bill, and the good news is that one got derailed, or at least it's been deferred back to committee.
Yeah.
That just happened this afternoon, right after this article came out. But they'll be back. I mean, obviously they're not going to give up on. This would prohibit, municipalities from enacting any rules.
Regulations. on it.
Yeah, like noise ordinances. Evidently, they make a lot of noise. They use a lot of water and huge amounts of energy. Their carbon footprint is like
Well,
10 times worse
These are
than
data centers.
anything.
That's what they are. They're data centers.
Yeah, but it's specifically for crypto.
Well, but it is just an application of a data center. I mean,
Yeah.
you can actually devote a data center to crypto mining, and they
Right.
do.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're,
Oh,
they're,
good.
they're horrible.
So I'm sure their vision is that it'll be this cottage industry, and there'll be one in every town, or everybody will get in on it.
What?
And it's just, they're nuts, but
Well,
that's what they.
this is a large part of, it's the current administration, it's the
Yeah.
Free Staters, I mean, there's a whole movement in this direction.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but it did get blocked.
Well, not blocked, but it's the term is
Retained in
re-referred.
committee.
So it's retained in committee till next year, so they can't even vote on it this year, so that's good.
Where's the
Feels
state
like-
rep? How do you know all the ins and outs of this so well?
Well,
Doug has been
I
at this
used to
for
be
a
a
long
lobbyist,
time.
actually.
Oh, Yeah.
And I still am to some degree, and it's usually I'm looking for something else, and I come in,
Yeah.
excited about. But actually, the Sierra Club's been really big on this,
Yeah.
obviously. Oh, I didn't even mention their carbon footprint. It's like, again, 10 times more than anything else. It's just so energy intensive.
Feels like carbon default swaps.
Uh,
Just another set of transactions that they can't possibly understand even 10% of it. They
Yeah.
don't understand the implications of it.
yeah.
It's
But evidently,
immense.
the crypto, just one little, factoid, the crypto industry right now and around the globe uses as much energy as the whole country of Poland. I've been to
Wow.
Poland, it's a pretty big country. And they have a carbon footprint as high as the country of
Unbelievable.
Qatar, which, is a big oil petro state, even if it's a small country, but it's a lot of carbon. So, for various reasons, it's really bad stuff, but they have this, they want to do it everywhere. And we'd be one of only 5 states, I guess, would be in the company of Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Montana. So,
What are you
real forward thinking what company would be, at least we wouldn't be the Mississippi of the North. As well.
Yeah.
So it's bad news, but fortunately, and I have to say there were 250, negative responses when people sign in and say what they think of it, and so they got a good earful on it. So it seems to be put off for now, but as I said, they'll be back.
Crazy.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about this prior to today.
They were, like I said, I get stuff from Sierra Club and several other organizations. They've been pushing it for a while.
In New Hampshire,
Yeah.
Sierra Club specifically in New Hampshire.
Yeah, the New Hampshire
Okay.
Sierra Club
Yeah,
chapter.
I hadn't seen this.
In fact, if you scroll down, there's the reporter, it's a good outfit, Hampshire Bulletin. They gave several paragraphs. Kathy Corkery, it's an old colleague of mine.
There we go.
Yeah, so, she basically laid it out.
Yeah.
I would assume, Sierra Club nationally has probably taken this on big time, so, at least in the States where they're pushing it. But, it's the same guy that's pushing the nuclear stuff, just so
Yes.
you know, it's not a coincidence. So Keith Hammond is his name.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of free state activity going on at the moment
Yeah.
in New Hampshire, and
Yeah.
it's not good. But, okay.
So,
The only other thing I had was Don Kreese has a new article in, what's the name of it? In New Hampshire.
Does everybody know who he is?
The Office of the Consumer Advocate. He's an interesting guy. His columns are always worth reading. This one is pretty funny. And have you read it?
Yeah, yeah, and I read what it was responding to.
Yeah, that's what was kind of.
I looked
funny.
up the link and.
I didn't want to go to the link.
It's kind of scary. I think it's the same folks. It's libertarians. It's called.
Okay, that's what I
Eagle.
assumed. Yeah.
Eagle News, but it's not like a.
Granite Eagle.
Yeah,
Granite
they have a
Eagle
website.
Press. So there's if anyone wants to, has the courage to go, as Doug did, yeah, feel free.
Evidently,
I
they were
won't
doing
do
a hit
that.
piece on the OCA, and if you go to the,
Oh, word, that
If you go to-
stands
yeah.
to reason.
yesterday, they published an article saying OCA, led to a 36% increase in power. It's like as if it was his fault.
So here were the questions that they wanted
Yeah.
him to answer. They confronted him with three questions, and so the Energy Information Administration is sort of an international organization, I believe. or
Well,
maybe
there's a
it's-
US one and there's
Yeah. And so are the figures that they cite accurate in your view? Their figures are always off. They're notorious for being off. Their estimates
They're
are.
usually a couple of years behind.
Yeah.
Just because the delay.
And they won't, they've been very reluctant to acknowledge the direction that the technology and that the world has taken in a lot of ways. But so their figures are usually pretty weird, but, and then they also wanted him to make a comment on, what's happened with residential rates, in the time that he's been in office. I mean, it's all, they're baiting it, basically. And what he responded with was, who are you guys? Because
They wouldn't say.
There was
They're
not a person that was connected to these questions. And then he said, I would be glad to answer these questions, and he did a very good job justifying what his positions were and what, how, he bears no responsibility for any of this, and what he's done in the Office of the Consumer Advocate, which has been quite a bit. He's been very responsible and he pays attention. But I do highly recommend, this is a regular column that he has. It's updated maybe once a month, something like that. Maybe a
I think
little.
whenever he gets
Yes,
spirit.
right.
Or somebody else frauds him.
He was at the CPC&H members meeting 2 weeks ago. And he held them to task for, I think I mentioned to you that at that meeting, I discovered a lot of what had really been going on for the past 4 months behind the scenes, and which I had not been aware of. And he really took them to task for not being visible on that. And their policies have changed so that they will be from now on, I hope. So it was interesting. He's a good guy.
Oh, and again, the website that he referred to that was
Yeah.
trying to get
Granite State.
the story they end up running, they go, oh, by the way, he was at the Concord, it's the hands-off rally, all these things, basically opposition to Trump. And, he posted a picture of himself. It wasn't like some secret that he was there. And they go, well, how dare a public official show up at a public event? It's like, come on.
Yeah, what about a PUC commissioner?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's where it was kind of funny, because it's exactly what happened
Yeah.
on the other side. But he said, yeah, I'm a public official, but I also have a conscience.
He's a smart guy. That was everything that I had. Upcoming events, the school board meeting is going to be on the 20th at 6 p.m. I wouldn't recommend that anyone come unless you really want to watch. You've seen the presentation before. And then our next meeting is on the 5th. We do not have a meeting in 2 weeks. Okay.
Did you do a calculation on what school board would save or get back?
Yeah, yes, I did. I was in this thing. So, Oh, so their average energy use per month is about around 1,400 megawatt hours, and their average monthly savings would be $1,800.
Okay.
So I should probably present this at the school board meeting, because I don't think they will have seen this.
If you, yeah, get the dollar amount and then what that is in a year,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a lot in a year.
It was 1,800 a month, you said?
Yeah.
That's $21,000.
Yeah.
yeah.
Change fees.
would imagine they will see it that way. We'll see. That was everything I had. Anyone else? Good. A new record. Thanks,